Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of Canucks Conversation, which is brought to you by the great folks over at Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. My name is Dave Quadrelli. I'm joined by Harman Dial. It is Canucks Conversation. It is episode 717 of Canucks Conversation. 719 of Canucks Conversation. I said I was going to start doing that.
Another counting error.
Another counting error. Check it off the bingo card. Dave was really alongside Harman Dial. It is a Canucks game day edition of Canucks Conversation. Lots to get to today. Lots to get to. We're remote. We're not trying to get into the downtown
Lots to
core.
get to should be on the bingo card too. I feel like you say that every single show.
I'm always excited to do the show. I got to be honest with you. This is probably like my the favorite part of the job is getting to just sit down and talk hockey and really like kind of I have to be serious at so many other parts of my job that it just gets to be it's more it's fun to have fun. Hot take. It's fun to have fun. Canucks are looking to have some fun on home ice tonight when the Columbus Blue Jackets visit them for the first time and only time this season. Harman, Kevin Lankinen starts in goal, but Thatcher Demco is his backup. It's the news of the day. Thatcher Demco, we said it yesterday. I tried to take a victory lap on Twitter. I'm not going to lie, because we posted the clip of me yesterday saying, look, I'll be honest, Demco looks ready to me. Like he was not going slow into any movements. He looked completely ready. And I put it out on Twitter. I said, called it kind of, because then I went back and watched the clip and realized I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he started. What I should have said is I wouldn't be surprised if he's ready to play. That's what I really meant to say. So victory lap, I'm taking it on that. Demko backs up Lankinen tonight.
Yeah, it's the biggest sign that he's close, right? That's really all that I take away from it. Is it's one thing to be practicing, one thing to be training, one thing to have the message out there and have the reporting out there that, oh, he's gonna be back soon, and to even hear it from the player and the coach. But it's another when you're actually dressing up for an NHL game, even if you aren't starting it. Really promising sign there. Hopefully he doesn't have to play, of course. But it's just going to be good to see him in a Canucks uniform again. It's been how many months since we've seen that?
Yeah, and we've got we've got a lot when it comes to Demko, right? Is okay, well now is he going to play on Sunday? We don't know. We didn't even know he was going to play in this game when Demko spoke yesterday. So that's why when we were talking about it, we were kind of guessing. He said at some point over the next 3 games, he was asked directly, I think point blank by JPAD actually, if it would be tonight. And he said, I'm not the guy to ask that question to. So let's go to the guy who was the right guy to ask the question to, Rick Tocchet, talking about what it means to have Thatcher Demko back with this team.
Demko is the backup. I mean, you're always a knock away. Like, he's now good to go then.
Who's that?
Demmer.
Yes.
What do you think that means just to the group to have him in uniform for the first time all season?
Well, I think him traveling with us the last couple of road trips, he's a leader on the team. He's a different type of leader. It's just him being around. He's just a glue guy. The guy works awfully hard. I mean, he's spent a lot of time by himself working out. He's there at 7 a.m. working with one trainer. So I think what it's contagious to me is the hard work he does. Like the young guys see this stuff, that how dedicated he is. So I see that really helps our locker room.
Thatcher Demko, a help to the locker room. I think he starts on Sunday. I think that's basically a foregone conclusion. I know obviously they're not going to confirm it 3 days out, but I would assume he gets to start Sunday. It's a 1:00 start against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm assuming that Thatcher Demko is going to get that game, but regardless, Harm, like Tocchet said it, he's been on the road for a bit, but seeing him just take warm-ups is going to give the team a boost, I think.
100%. He's one of those players that everybody in the locker room really likes, and especially just having the presence of a star player back with you, knowing that you're going to get that boost soon, is massive. To again just know that reinforcements are on the way, and that this team has done an admirable job on the last road trip of having to contend with the absences of Miller and Hronek as well, and to continue winning games. So to already have good vibes building from that resilience and that success, and to know that help is on the way, it's just one of those things that really builds belief in the locker room, and it just is just another shot in the arm.
Okay, Harm, let's move our way down here. Another news of the day, Canucks did assign Jonathan Lecker-Mackey and Cole McWard to the AHL. So really what that was it was the Canucks pausing their cap accrual for a day. Nice for those guys to get a practice with the big club, get an NHL paycheck. Like that's the daily paycheck that you get from being in the NHL compared to the AHL when you're on an ELC like that is a pretty substantial one. So nice for the Canucks to bring those guys up just to get a taste with the big club, get a chance to practice, and of course get that sweet NHL paycheck, even if it was just for one day. You kind of talked about that yesterday as well. No real surprise that those guys aren't there. One thing I did want to talk about when it came to these younger guys is Max Sasson. It looks like he's going to line up as a center tonight. We know about Ratu's faceoff prowess, so I'm assuming it's going to be like a lotto line thing where Ratu probably will take the draw and then they'll rotate when it comes to defensive responsibilities. Sasson's played center before. Obviously, he's not done it with the Canucks yet, so really interested what that looks like with him lining up there.
Yeah, I wonder if a lot of that is just to take a little bit of the in-zone defensive responsibilities off of Ratu, maybe a little bit, because he's already been. We know he can crush it in the face-off circle, and that's the biggest thing keeping him in the lineup right now. Because without Miller in the lineup, they don't have a lot of capable face-off guys. But it's also an opportunity to see what Sasson can do as a center at the NHL level, because that is his natural position. And every time I've seen him play, even more than, let's say, the forechecking or the speed, it's always been the defensive intelligence that he has that's always stood out to me, whether it's AHL level, Penticton, young stars, preseason games. It's the way that he tracks back through the middle and the neutral zone on the back check, for example. He's so quick at supporting defensemen in that way. He thinks defense first, and I think that's a big part of the equation, maybe, is just to see how does he look in that role versus Ratu. I don't think practically it makes a huge difference, especially because the way that most NHL systems work is it's usually just the first forward back who ends up taking the center's responsibilities anyway. It's not always a centerman, but it does mean that Sasson will have more of an equal defensive burden with Ratu, as opposed to Ratu maybe doing more of the heavy lifting beforehand.
I was going to save this for anyone else, but I'm going to tell a quick story because it was recent at a library. I go to libraries, and I found this book on hockey systems. Okay. Like, it was all about, and I wasn't even looking for it. I was literally just in the sports section at the library. Okay. It was a book on hockey systems, but it was published in like the mid 70s. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is amazing. Like, let's see. It was wild, Harm. Like, it was absolutely wild. The winger's responsibility, like in the book, it was like the word back check wasn't used once, I might also add, but it was like the winger's responsibility on defense is to make sure that he's not beat by the last defenseman up the ice and keep him in front of you. Like, that was it. Just keep the last defenseman up the ice in front of you. It was so fun. It was so fun to read it. And honestly, I didn't have much time. But I gotta dive more into that book. It was, yeah, I'm gonna dive into it. I think that'll be a summer content episode, is looking at the book on hockey systems from the mid 70s and just what can we learn from this book about how different hockey was. I had to mention that with you talking about responsibilities and everything there. So not off the rails, but I thought that was a good thing to bring up.
That's so funny too, especially because back in the 70s, defensemen weren't given nearly as much of a green light to activate and be part of offensive zone play. So really, you're right. You'd come back as a winger in the defensive zone, and you're thinking, as long as my guy at the point doesn't move,
if he doesn't get past me,
if he doesn't get past me, I'm good. Whereas now, yes, centers still have more defensive responsibilities than wingers, because essentially and I don't want to bore people with the nuts and bolts, but the way a lot of teams prioritize the system is, and it's not even so much a systems thing, just philosophy, is you don't want to be outnumbered in the slot and below the hash marks as a defensive team. So it's not just the two defensemen, it's your center down low or your first forward coming back ends up essentially playing the role of a third defenseman.
Yeah.
Where he's either guarding the net front or more commonly taking away passing lanes into the slot. And so, yeah, that's just changed a lot as far as, I mean, sometimes wingers will end up in that spot, but yeah, much different than mid 70s when wingers were like doing nothing.
And I mean, that's the thing is so this book, right, published mid-70s. I wonder why Bobby Orr was able to have so much success. And obviously, I'm not taking anything away from Bobby Orr. I'm just saying, like, the wingers must have been like, whoa, he's allowed to do that? This guy's allowed to skate like that? That shouldn't be allowed. But anyways, we will dive into that more. But before we do that, we'll do that on another show. Let's dive in to Canucks versus Columbus. Looking at the other side, Harm, like, we know the season that Zach Werenski's having. He might be on some Norris ballots this year. Who knows? He's having a phenomenal start to his season. What can you say about his play so far?
He's really leveled up and taken that step from fringe number one defenseman to, all right, he's playing at a bona fide superstar level, not just the point production, but the 5-on-5 two-way metrics as well. He's been the engine for that team. He's been by far their best player. And I think it's helped their blue line look more competent than it typically is, where Werenski was always the best defenseman on the Blue Jackets. But when he's playing at this high of a level, it also makes it super easy for whoever he's playing with to have a ton of success. That was Ivan Provorov early in the season on the top pair with Werenski. Provorov was much better than he was in his first season in Columbus last year. Now it's been Dante Fabro, and Fabro's been off to an excellent start. So that's really the difference that it makes. Is it's not just Werenski by himself, it's the trickle down effect it has on who he plays with. That's like, he's been the leader, he's been the go-to guy. The other thing that might surprise you is, like, heading into the season, looking at the Blue Jackets on paper, looking at the top of their lineup, and like Sean Monahan and Kirill Marchenko on the top line, good players, but relative to other top lines in the NHL, you're thinking, okay, that's a below average duo to have. Like, they're really missing elite talent. But interestingly, before the Edmonton game, I was looking at some of the numbers. The Monahan-Marchenko duo at 5-on-5 together, they've been on the ice for 22 goals scored and just 8 against. Quietly, they've been one of the more underrated offensive duos in the NHL this season. And it's not just, all right, in a small sample size, they're getting some shooting luck. They've controlled 63% of expected goals together. So it's not just that they're scoring a bunch and not giving much up defensively from a results perspective, but the process has actually been pretty dominant too. So between Werenski on the back end and the Monahan-Marchenko duo at the top of the lineup up front, that's really been the backbone of Columbus getting off to this really hot offensive start.
Okay, a lot of things to get to today. Like I said, I say that every show, but today there is a lot. There's a Igor Shesterkin signing that just came down the pipeline. I'm not sure if you've even seen it yet, Harm. 8 years. Do we have the AAV? Yeah, I see it on Frank Saravalli's Twitter now. 11.5 million. I think Kevin Weeks might have been the first one on it. Yeah, Emily Kaplan and Kevin Weeks. Oh, and Frank included that in his tweet. 8 years, 11.5 million. Obviously, we know these two sides were talking earlier in the year. They get Shesterkin done. Not the only move that the Rangers made today, Harmon. I'm assuming you don't have much to say about the Shesterkin deal. You get a Vezina, you get one of the best goalies in the league locked up. This is the Rangers' only chance at competing, is having Igor Shesterkin on their team. He's their best player. Jacob Trouba, not their best player, traded to the Anaheim Ducks for a 4th-round pick. And, oh boy, Urho Vakanainen. Vakanainen. Yeah, that's right. Right? What? That's right.
I mean, you had it pretty good the first time, but the more you kept trying to go...
No, I threw an N in there the first time. It's just Vakanainen.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
There's an N there. It's Vakanainen. Oh, no, you're right.
Yeah, Vakanainen.
There's only the two. Yeah, Vakanainen.
Don't try to tell me I can't pronounce Finnish names.
Oh,
Kevin Lankinen.
No, so sorry, though. In Johnny Lazarus's tweet, he missed that N, but in Frank's tweet, there is the N.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. You had it right the first time.
Johnny probably just didn't spell it right, and Frank spelled it right. And
yes, Vakanainen. Okay. It doesn't matter. Jacob Trouba to the Anaheim. Jacob Trouba to the Anaheim Ducks. Harm, I want to talk about the kind of lead up to this move, and this was the idea that, well, Trouba has a no trade clause. The Rangers seemed like they were getting ready to just throw him on waivers and basically the way this was going to work is similar to what happened with Barclay Goodrow. Is, okay, you don't want to go to this destination, you're going to block a trade, and we're going to make a future considerations trade with them. We're going to put you on waivers, and they're just going to claim you. Trouba had to waive his no trade clause in order to go to the Ducks. I think that was also Frank that reported that, but if he hadn't, basically what it seemed like would have happened was they were just going to put him on waivers. The Ducks were going to claim him, and then that would be how they do it. And then they do their own little side deal. Again, we don't know the ins and outs of it. We do know that it was brought up and people were talking about it today. Arthur Staples was the one that was all over it, your colleague over The Athletic. But this idea, Harm, that your no trade clause basically doesn't mean anything because we found a loophole. I know even though it didn't happen, the fact that it was a discussion point means that it's going to be a discussion point when the CBA is negotiated. Like this, clearly to me, this is a loophole that's going to get sealed pretty quick.
It's not a loophole because you can get a no move clause. No move clause, you can't get thrown on waivers. That's the distinction, right? And this is where Trouba, he had an NMC up until July 1st of this past summer. That's when that no move clause transitioned to a modified no trade.
And you can take less money to turn that into an NMC. Like the team would leave that available to you usually.
100%. And this is where if I'm a player agent or just a player, like a notable player around the league, and I'm negotiating my next contract, looking at the way that the Rangers have done this, but also reportedly in the past, that's how Tampa got McDonough moved to Nashville originally. That's a note to self that you gotta go all the way if you can and make sure you get that iron no move clause, because this is a tool and device that general managers have at their disposal. Is it cruel? Yeah, but it's well within their right. And it is so funny too that the contract, I can't imagine that Jacob Trouba, when he initially signed that contract all those years ago, first arriving in New York, was thinking, oh, last 2 years of my contract, the no move clause moves to a modified no trade. He's probably thinking, oh, I still have a bunch of control. And here he now is in a situation where he's moving to Anaheim. And the context here is really interesting too, where for him on a personal level, his wife is of course in medical school, still has to finish that up in New York. And so for him to be on the opposite coast, well, she has to remain in New York. You feel for Trouba, the person, but this is where you realize that hockey really is a business first and foremost.
I don't want to sound mean. Is she still in medical school? I thought she was doing that like 8 years ago.
Medical school is really long. I'm pretty sure
it's not more than 8 years.
Well, it's 4 years of school and then 4 years of like placements and.
But you have to do like residency, That's what I meant. Like she still has some commitments back in New York related to finishing up being a doctor. I think that's what I had.
That's
read
what I'm asking is if you'd actually still read this.
I just looked it up. His wife has not completed her 3-year residency at a New York hospital. So I think he lined the contract length up with his wife's schooling and residency in New York. So until his contract expires, his wife will still be working in residency back in New York.
She can't even like pick up the pace. Residency means you're working there, right? Like it's not like you just take extra classes.
And it's really tough. Like it is. You hear from people that
I'm definitely not trying to say it's easy or anything.
Oh, I know, but I'm just like, you're like 8 years. How is she not done yet? And I'm just
okay. Moving on.
It's a long time to become a doctor, Quads.
Moving on. Jacob Trouba, Radko Gudas on the same blue line. Anaheim, for all their warts, there's going to be some storylines coming out of Anaheim with the hits that are going to be thrown, whether they're clean or dirty. We have to wait and see. I'm going to guess there's going to be some dirty hits thrown in Anaheim in the coming weeks and the coming months as well. But Jacob Trouba traded to the Anaheim Ducks. And I will say, Harm, back on the no trade clause thing, I get that it's allowed and it's a tool at their disposal and that he could have gotten a full no move clause, but I still think the PA is going to have a bit of an issue with it. I really do. Like the idea of you have to accept this trade that's on your no trade list, or we're just going to put you on waivers and you're going to end up there anyway. That's not what it's for. Like that's not the no. I
get what you're saying, but waivers, like they're well within their right to put them on waivers if they want to,
and then have a side deal with the team later. Like that's a loophole to me.
Well, maybe not the side deal component, but even if it you put it this way, let's say you couldn't do the side deal component or whatever because that's a loophole. I'm pretty sure that they would have been fine with just putting him on waivers and Anaheim claiming him for nothing.
Yeah. Also, I need to clarify. I wasn't trying to fire shots at Jacob Trouba's wife. Like in the chat, people are like, "Are you firing shots at the man's wife? The doctor?" No. I wasn't sure how long medical school took. Can you not like? She can't go to a residency in Anaheim?
No,
I don't know how this
works, man.
Why? I don't get it. I don't get why. Anyways, they need doctors over there.
It's not how it works.
You can't transfer. Seriously, you can't transfer.
I mean, I'm not aware of the ins and outs.
Yeah, you have to finish your residency, and then you can go wherever you want.
Isn't your residency like 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, 3 or 4 years, I think.
That's crazy. Well, all the best to the Trouba family. Hopefully she can transfer. Jeez, Jamito Frog. I don't know if it's a doctor in the chat or just someone that knows about it. Postgraduate training for doctors can be 3 to 7 years. That's wild. Weren't you going to be a doctor?
No, I was in nursing school.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Similar. Sniper in the chat said Quads hasn't watched Grey's Anatomy. No, I haven't. I haven't. I watched the first season. I was like, how are they doing 21 seasons of this stuff? Okay.
The trade itself, we should probably talk about. We've spent all this time talking about all the other, like the no move clause and everything. How
what do you want to talk about with this trade?
Well, how the Rangers got away with getting off that cap hit for not only this season but next, and netting slightly positive value as opposed to having to pay sweeteners is wild. How, and I don't think Chris Drury overall has done a glamorous or stellar job in New York by any means, but for him to get off the Trouba and Goudreau contracts without having to pay any sweeteners is insane to me.
Absolutely. I will say that's the one part of the trade that really surprised me, was just like, again, it gives real San Jose Sharks trade vibes, right? Like when you want to pull off one of these deals, call one of the California teams not named LA. That's how you get these done. We know that. That's how you get these done. And they got it done. Did you want to talk more about Shesterkin at all? Or like, do you know anything about Vanalainen going back the other way? I don't. I never heard of him.
He was decent on a pair with Gudas for a while last year, but he's fallen off a bit this year. Ultimately, he's just a replacement level defenseman. He's nothing.
Oh, he was the 18th overall pick in the by the Boston Bruins.
I believe he initially went to Anaheim as part of the Hampus Lindholm trade. But at that point, it was clear that he's not going to be like this top 4 or even top 5 level defenseman.
Huh. And a 4th round pick the other way. Who wins the trade? I think it's New York because they get out of the money.
Oh, easy.
Doesn't even matter who you bring back.
I do understand the logic from Anaheim's perspective in that, okay, you bring in Trouba, he can shelter some of your younger defensemen like Minchikov and Zellweger as far as they don't need to play as many difficult minutes, which can sort of help their development be a little bit more sheltered. Plus, the Ducks at some point can, like, they have so much cap space that who cares if they're taking on $8 million of Trouba's money, and whether it's at this year's deadline or the offseason or next year's trade deadline, they can retain 50% on that. And Trouba at 50% retained, $4 million, there's still going to be interest in him. Yeah. And at that point, if they can get, I don't know, a 2nd round pick, for example, then all of a sudden they've netted actual value from that transaction. But my issue is I still think they let the Rangers off too easily in this one here.
Do you think there's a chance Trouba bounces back at all? Like, is there a chance he bounces back to the player he was?
Not really. I just don't think he's a high level top 4 defenseman anymore. It's been multiple seasons of this now. This isn't just a one-off, a one-off thing where he struggled in last year's playoffs and he's having a tough start to the season. He's just not equipped to playing the tough minutes on the blue line and being a guy that munches 22, 23, 24 minutes. Now he'll do that in Anaheim out of necessity. But the other thing that I'll mention is, I guess, because there have been rumors about Anaheim potentially trading Cam Fowler, that's probably, from Anaheim's perspective, insulation as far as like, okay, we'll at least have some veterans on the back end. It's not just going to be Gudas and then a bunch of kids if we trade Fowler away. So that's another part of the equation. But I think Trouba's he's just not top 4 defenseman on a contender quality team anymore.
Okay. Do you want to say anything else about either the Blue Jackets or the Trouba trade? I have a bunch of stuff for anyone else that I want to get to.
Yeah, let's get to anyone else.
Okay. Before that, poll question. We're borrowing it from our friends over at Carson Price. It was a great poll question. Let's see it. Let's see it, Jacob. Pull it up. Pull it up, Jacob. There it is. Which tickets would you rather use, not resell tonight? Which would you rather use? 4 Canucks lower bowl seats versus Columbus or 2 upper bowl seats to Taylor Swift. 55.4% say Canucks tickets. 44.6% say Taylor Swift tickets. Harm, I'm very firmly in the Taylor Swift camp.
I am totally unsurprised. Why would you pick the Canucks tickets? You're as a reporter, you could go to a Canucks game whenever, and Taylor Swift, you're a Swiftie, so I am 0% surprised there.
Yeah. I also talked to Jake DeBrusk. I talked about this yesterday. I turned it into a story. Jake DeBrusk couldn't score tickets for the tour. He's waiting for someone. He's waiting for his hookups because he had a hookup in Boston, and he went with his girlfriend. They went to the Gillette Stadium tour. So he's already seen her on this tour. This tour's been on for so long. The wife's going to it tonight. I'm not going with her.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, she's going. She's going tonight.
Oh,
she's very excited about it.
Did she have to buy on the secondary market?
No.
Ooh,
no.
Lucky.
She's very, very, very lucky.
She wasn't tempted to resell?
No. Although,
were you pushing it?
This is more of a conversation
for your wedding.
This is more of a conversation for off air, but it was a good chunk of change. But no, no. It's good that she's going. Honestly, like she gets to go with her cousin, who you guys know is maid of honor, and they're very excited for it. And yeah, it was never a question of like, oh, we're gonna resell. It was never a question. So yeah, they're super excited. I'm excited for them, but I do wish I could be a part of that. But that's the other thing. I hate crowds, so it kind of offsets. Like I can listen to her music from home. She could tell me about how it was. I'm fine. I get the experience. I'm good.
Yeah, nothing to really add there. Yeah.
Okay, let's get to anyone else, which is brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot for all games, home and away. We were there for the first viewing party of the season, the next of which is coming up soon. Details on that are coming in the next week or so, I think. Just minutes from the arena, come by before and after the game or whatever event you're downtown for. With arcade games, weekly drink specials, and the recently updated street food menu, Greta Bar YVR is the place to be. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. Okay, let's go to my notes because I took a bunch of notes that I want to talk about. Okay, I watched some games last night, Harm. Can you believe it? I watched some NHL games last night.
I believe it.
Matvei Michkov, 3-point night last night. He looked so good. He drew in defenders. That was a hell of a match. It was just back and forth between the Flyers and the Panthers. Just back and forth. It was unbelievable. And I mean, the Flyers coming back in that game too. I had a joke in here written down. It's not a good joke. You remember Luosterainen, the guy you told me about?
Yeah.
I wrote down Luosterainen, more like Lusta Spiza. He threw a pizza into the middle of the ice to kind of spark the Flyers comeback. So that's the joke that I had written down.
Very lame.
Yeah, not a good one. But Lusta Spiza was what I came up with last time when I was watching the game. 3-point night for Matvei Michkov, though, Harm. It feels like ahead of the season. I think we both picked him to win the Calder, and now we're talking about, Dustin Wolf, how he's fueling the Wagon Flames. We're talking about all these different players. Macklin Celebrini might win it at this point. It feels like Michkov's kind of fallen down the rankings a bit, but more performances like last night are going to get him firmly back into that conversation.
For sure. And the other interesting thing about the season that he's had to this point is he doesn't have much help around him, right? He doesn't get to play with Travis Konechny. So you look at the stable of 5-on-5 line mates that he's had on Natural Stat Trick. It's just a mismatch of pretty underwhelming or pretty middle of the pack, top 9 caliber players. So this isn't even like, imagine when Michkov has actual elite talent to play with. I can't even imagine. This is where, again, I just can't believe that he fell to the Flyers. And of course, there were rumors that certain teams he wouldn't go to. And so maybe that's why certain teams passed up on him. But I always believed that as soon as you went, first of all, because I watched a ton of Michkov in his draft year and Bedard, he's the second most purely skilled player in this draft class after Bedard. Like by far, which is saying something because that 2023 draft class was stacked. Now I could understand the argument of, okay, if you want to take a Leo Carlson or an Adam Fantilli because you think those guys might be franchise centers, especially because the whole Russian factor risk at the time with the war and everything, I could kind of understand it. But after the first 3 picks, I was like, this is like, he should be a no-brainer to like. I'm shocked that Montreal didn't take him.
And I mean, it was Smith, Reinbacher, and it's the defenseman that Chris really liked. Chris Faber mentioned Russian kid defenseman. What's his name?
Simishev.
Yeah, that's it. Simishev. He was the one that came after that. And then it was Mishkov right after that. I agree with you that Montreal should have been all over that for sure. Jacob, as a Habs fan, what was your reaction to them passing on Mishkov at the time?
I was upset because I agree they should have gone for him, and especially with what they did since getting Demidov, that combination would have been pretty disgusting. Like in a few years, it was a mistake. I understand why there were teams, as you said, Harm, that passed on him, but they're all gonna regret it going forward. He looks like the real deal, and props to the Flyers for getting him over so quickly.
I just want to hear Jacob say that it was a mistake. So thanks for that, Jacob. I appreciate it. Okay, the Wagon Flames were robbed. That's the other thing in my notes. Look, I tell people, okay, let's start tracking the Bet365 bets. I'm 0 for 2 now because I get robbed on this one at the end of the game. Pull it up, Jacob. I honestly can't believe that this was allowed to stand. This overtime goal, and if you haven't seen it, folks, it's all over Twitter. Everybody's talking about it. Colton Parayko, noted offensive bum, comes in and pokes the puck, and then he gets pad. He hits Dan Vladar's pad, and people are like, oh, Vladar needs to do a better job of anchoring to his post. You've never played the position. I don't know if you've even ever skated before. If you're like, he needs to anchor to his post here. He's stretched out. He cannot get he can't anchor to his post. That goal doesn't go in because Vladar's holding his leg. That goal doesn't go in without Parayko hitting his pad. It just doesn't. You can say whatever you want. Oh, he got the puck first. It doesn't go in if Vladar's pad. Vladar didn't swing his leg back into the net. That didn't happen. His pad got pushed. That shouldn't have counted.
Yeah, you're right, Quads. You're the Flames are the first team that's ever been robbed in OT. No team has ever been unlucky or had something go against them in OT. Boo-hoo.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree with me. The
first time in history.
Sea of Red, we don't forget. We'll be back. We get a point last night.
Where?
What? Okay. Do you come on? Do you agree with me on this? Though?
I mean, yeah, but also these things happen, man. Like, the other day we were just talking about how the refs missed a blatant Kaprizov trip on Garland. Things go against you.
So that's going against you. That's not going against you in the goal crease. Like, come on, that's totally different.
Sure, buddy.
Flames were robbed.
First controversial goal. NHL infamously never has controversial goals.
And this is what pisses me off, because now Paul Papadoulis, he's starting to have trust issues with me in the chat. He said, your Wagon Flames ruined my 25-cent parlay, Quads. You will answer for your fraudulence. That hurts my feelings. And not Paul is well within his right to say that. I'm saying it hurts me that I hurt Paul. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. All I could say is just maybe don't follow the Wagon Flames narrative here for the rest of the season, folks.
We'll see. Okay, we were talking about the teddy bear toss yesterday, Harm. Funny enough, I was listening to The Sheet with Jeff Merrick yesterday. That's a great show, by the way, folks. If you haven't checked it out yet, The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, so good. I was listening to it yesterday, and he pointed out that the first teddy bear toss was 31 years ago yesterday. So like we were talking about it on the anniversary of the teddy bear toss being invented in Kamloops Blazers in 1993 on December 5th. It was two-time Cup champion Brad Lukowich who scored the first teddy bear toss goal. So for trivia, there you go. Brad Lukowich scores the first teddy bear toss goal. I'm hoping to get out to a teddy bear toss game pretty soon. And I know you haven't been to one, Harm. They are so much fun. Like just as a event to attend, whether you're a hockey fan or not, it's so much fun. It's for a good cause. You hope the home team doesn't get shut out, but it's just so much fun. I love me some teddy bear toss games.
Yeah, very cool piece of trivia. I did not know that. And yeah, at some point in my life, I'll have to make sure that I get out to a teddy bear toss game.
We'll get you out to one. Okay, quickly in the chat, we're going to wrap up anyone else pretty quick here. But this one from Conversation, kind of agreeing with what I was saying about the no trade clause and everything. Conversation in the chat said, I hope free agents punish the Rangers going forward for how they treated Trouba and Gaudreau. I wouldn't sign without a full NMC. Also, keep in mind, Conversation's a lawyer, so take that, Harm.
I didn't disagree with that take or that idea at all. He's right that if GMs are well within their right to, if a player doesn't have a full NMC, threaten to put them on waivers, but there are consequences for your actions. Then that means top free agents or even just players on your own team, if they know that that's something that you could do to them, then they're going to demand full NMCs.
And LC250, you just kind of answered this question about the Canucks had a Mikheyev deal to San Jose where no retention was required, but he wouldn't waive his no trade clause to San Jose. Why can't Alvin pull a waiver threat on Mikheyev too? And that's the answer. What you just said, it can be used against you later, as Conversation would say. Oh no, that's cops, not lawyers. Okay. Last thing, someone in the chat, where was it? Oh yeah, Conversation again. What's your favorite Christmas movie / song? My favorite Christmas song is called Christmas Tree by Julian Casablancas, lead singer of The Strokes, one of my favorite bands. That or DMX singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Those are my favorite songs. Favorite Christmas movie, without a shadow of a doubt, is Elf.
Yeah, for a movie, I was either going to say Elf or Home Alone.
Home Alone's so good too. Elf's a classic. It's a great movie. Yeah, good stuff. Okay, we will wrap it up there. We'll be back on Monday. Special show on Monday. We're going to have Ryan Tattle, former Coquitlam Express forward.
Did you do your Bet365?
I'll get to it in a sec. Ryan Tattle is going to join us. They're doing the Score for Cancer game at the Coquitlam Express game. So Ryan Tattle is going to join us on Monday to chat about that. And we will get to more on Monday as well. We'll have 2 games to talk about on Monday. But before we close it out, let's get to our Bet365 bet of the day. Are the Flames playing hockey tonight? No, they are not. Okay, what do we like? Ooh, man, do I do another underdog Leafs or frauds bet? It hurt us last time at, I think, the same odds with the Nashville Predators, but I think we have to do it, Harm. The Washington Capitals are in town to take on the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight, and we are going to take the Capitals money line. It is at plus 125 over on Bet365. That was our bet of the day, brought to you by Bet365, a proud partner of Canucks Conversation. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you sign up for an account. Must be 19+ to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Look, we're 0-2. People probably thought I'd go, let's go for the favorite. Let's take the safe bet. Nope, we're taking it. We're taking a fraudulent Leafs bet. Plus 125. Go get the Washington Capitals. I like it. What's been more impressive for you? This is something they asked on the sheet. What's more impressive? How the Capitals have played to start the season with Ovechkin, or how they've played without Ovechkin since he's gone down with the injury? I say the latter. I say it's the latter.
It's a really good question.
Yeah, this is the good kind of hockey analysis you can get over on the sheet, but it's a good question. And honestly, Harm, I go with the latter. I really do. I go with the latter. I think coming together, and I think there's a real vibe of, okay, we're doing this because we want to send Ovechkin off nice. Be nice if some of Sidney Crosby's bum teammates in Pittsburgh had the same feelings toward him, the way that the Capitals do for Ovechkin. But there's a real sense of like, okay, we're going to do this so Ovechkin has a nice send-off as he chases down this goal record. Whereas they're letting Sidney Crosby just wither away in Pittsburgh. But I think it's the latter, because after he went down and you seemingly lose that motivation, like, they stuck with it, and to do it without their top goal scorer too. Like, that's the other thing. It's not just let's make old man feel good. It's, this is your best player. And how are you going to compete without him? And they've done a great job.
Yeah, it's probably the latter as well. You've made a pretty convincing case there.
That's what I like to do. All right, we will close it out there. Good stuff, Harm. We'll close it out there for my co-host Harm Adal and our technical producer Jacob Lazar. My name is Dave Gugelli. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.